Hello everybody out there in YouTube land. Alright, it is me, Chris. Happy New Year, which by New Year we're actually celebrating on January the 12th this year. That's right, I think they moved it. I hope everyone got the memo. Happy New Year. Just kidding. Anyway, so I was going to get this up before New Year's, but I kind of got indecisive and busy. So I took my time and really decided to work on this top 20 list for 2014. So basically, it took me a long time to narrow down about 50 albums to 20. And I swear even that was difficult because I had 100 starting off. My buddy Corey actually kind of did something similar to this, but he had a picture where it was like his top 10 albums and then secondary albums and then like other honorable mentions. And I should have done something like that, but I decided to go with the top 20 list. So let's get to it with the top 20 albums of 2014. Kick it! First off, I know that everyone is going to disagree with some of my albums and or argue that they should have been higher or lower on my list. But just remember, this is my list and my picks for what I thought was great in 2014. So, right off the bat, number 20, The Ghost Inside with Dear Youth. Now, this is a high contender for the best Ghost Inside release. Now, I know a lot of people who have been listening to them for years could say, oh no, their first two albums were the best, or Get What You Give was the best. And it's kind of for debate for me. Get What You Give and Dear Youth are kind of like at a tie. They have this great aggressive feel with some clean vocals mixed in, very little amount of clean vocals, and these melodic instrumentals. It adds up to a great album, and Dear Youth contends on the fact that every song kind of accelerates from one another, kind of just builds up in this great album that, just kind of keeps going with the heavy rock influence, which is really good. So that's why I made number 20. All right, number 19, I chose Slipknot with Point 5, The Gray Chapter. Now, I'm pretty sure this is on almost any person who likes metal music, their top list of 2014. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say it was my favorite Slipknot release. I'd probably say the self-titled album, the first one they put out, was my favorite. Everything since then has been good. I love Slipknot, but it's more like, oh yeah, I enjoy this, but I kind of rather the old stuff more. So that's actually one of those cases. That's pretty much all I have to say about that album. Number 18, Foo Fighters with Sonic Highways. Now, I love Foo Fighters. People should know this. I flew to Jersey to see them back in 2012. Worth every second of it. It was awesome. I do believe Sonic Highways is not the best Foo album. I love the concept of how it was made. The fact they went to 8 different cities to record 8 different songs. And the writing process. I know they had a HBO series on it. I did not watch it yet, but I will. It seemed really interesting, and the concept of how it was made was awesome. Just like how Wasting Light before that was made, it was all on reel and all on tape. They had to do it in like one take. There's no digital format. It was really interesting. And Dave Grohl and company always keep things interesting and new with Foo Fighters, and that's why it's at number 18. All right, number 17. Set It Off with Duality. Now, at first, I didn't think it was going to make my list, but at another listen to this album, I said, man, Set It Off have really picked up their game. And that's because they've always had this constant, they're not post-hardcore, and they're definitely not pop, but they're somewhere in the mix of all this rock and other subgenres that you could categorize them under. But they've done something on this album with Duality, and they just focused on it, and they made a bunch of catchy songs, kind of like Panic at the Disco with their first album. How everything they write and put onto it will get stuck in your head no matter what. And it's a simple concept like that, and putting out an album, you're just going to have a great record, and that's what Set It Off did. Number 16, Against Me, Transgender Dysphoria Blues. Now, again, this is just one that had to make my list. It came out early in 2014. I think it was January. One of the first releases of last year. I know that much. And I will say that it's not the best Against Me album, like I've contended with all albums and bands on this list so far. But the actual fact of lyrically on this album and the aggressive feel that it really has, the raw, gritty, punk feel that Against Me have put into this album, kind of tops a lot of their work. And they've been a band for 15 years now, maybe longer. And Laura and everyone else in the band kind of just put out this album that's like, hey, fuck you, music industry, here we are, take us as we are. And that's pretty much what it was, and it was a great record. I bought the CD and I bought the record of it, so No regrets. All right, number 15. We got Architects with Lost Together, Lost Forever. Now, I see this higher up on a lot of people's lists, and I think it's a great album because Architects always bring this metalcore feeling of, you know, it's going to be one of your favorite metalcore bands, and no matter what you listen to, you love it because it's always aggressive and heavy. You know, if you're pissed off, you listen to Architects. And it's kind of true. I know in the previous two albums before this, they kind of had like a mix and match. You know, they didn't know if they want to be post-hardcore or they want to be metalcore. And it's always like an indecisive factor that, I guess, unless, you know, you decide, oh no, we're going fully post-hardcore, fully metalcore. I think on this album, they went 97% hardest metalcore they could think of, because I mean there's just so many aggressive tracks on this, and I would contend Sam Carter for saying bleh more times than any singer I've heard in recent history. You know, it's not a bad thing, it's just more comical and awesome. But yeah, so again, that's why it's higher up on my list. It definitely wasn't my favorite metalcore album of the year. Number 14, Vanna with Void. Last year Vanna made my top 20 list, and there was no chance in hell they weren't going to make this list. Vanna have become one of the most turn-to bands for me that I go to listen to when I'm kind of thinking, I'm stuck in my own head, and I kind of listen to the Few and the Far Between and Void because they're the newest albums that kind of, as far as like well put together, like oiled machines, like it's there, like the entire like Davey and Nick and everyone in the band, and I can't explain it. You know, everyone in the band knows what they're doing, and the lyrics and the aggressive, like, I guess you can say hardcore, post-hardcore-ish sound that Vanna have kind of moved towards from their old roots of, I guess, more the mainstream post-hardcore was called back then. Either way, the aggressive, emotional feel on this album that just kind of leaves you inspired kind of thing. I know a lot of people have listened to this album, and as well as the last one, just been inspired by Vanna and kind of turned to them. I know, you know, it's just what the band is there for, you know. They're there for you and you're there for them. That's the way it is. Vanna will always make my list for that reason. Number 13, I chose Comeback Kid and Die Knowing. Now again, this is another early release last year. I think it was February or March. Not really great with the dates. Didn't look all those up. But yeah, this is probably the best Comeback Kid album, and I think anyone will argue with me for the fact that they can say Scott Wade's a better vocalist, and the fact that, you know, oh, he's gone, so they're not that great anymore. If you listen to Comeback Kid, or if you haven't, I should say, actually, go listen to this album, and then you can go back and listen to anything else they put in, because this is a definitive album that says, we are here and we are staying. I think the fact it was so aggressive, kind of like Vanna's new album, like I just talked about. It's so aggressive and so catchy, you know, like they stuck to short songs. I think it's less than a half hour, and there's, I think, 11 songs, 12 songs. I'm not 100% certain on the actual length of the album, but like you listen to it and you feel like you're just listening to one song straight through for how catchy it is, how aggressive it is, and how well put together it is, like an oiled machine, like I just mentioned. It just makes a great album, and that's what they did. Great job, Comeback Kid. Okay, getting to number 12. Again, this is one that's probably on a lot of people's lists. I'd say 80% of the people I know had this on their list for best albums. At least people listen to the same music I do. Being as an Ocean, As We Both Perishly Wander. Hopefully I said it right. I kind of screw that up from time to time. Being as an Ocean have become a band in the scene that, whether it's Tumblr or YouTube or, you know, oh, check out this band, look at their lyrics, you know, oh, check out what they did here. This has become one of those bands. The melodic hardcore feel that Being as an Ocean has brought, especially with this album, the mix and master is a lot better, the quality, vocally. I like the fact there's actually a lot more cleans on this album. It kind of drags me in even more. I know Dear GD, or Dear God, whatever you want to call it, was a great record, but this, I'm sorry, anyone can argue about it, this is the best Being as an Ocean album, and I can't wait to see what they're doing. I think it's late this year or next year that they're putting out. I think it's this year. I want to say summer because they're on Warped Tour, but I'll do that in a different video. So yeah, definitely Being as an Ocean, you know, they amazing. Just go listen to it. Number 11. Now, okay, I don't know if a lot of people have this on their list. Set to Reflect, Artificial Sun. This album means a lot to me because my friends are in the band. And it's not saying, oh, it's your buddy's band, you're going to pick them and put them on your list. No. I waited 3 years to hear this album. They were one of the first bands to contact me on my channel. I helped them out, I promoted them, I had them up on this channel, and there's not a lot of people that would even talk to me back then. So when I was approached by Tony and everyone else in the band, well, different people back then, I said, of course, I'd do anything to help you guys, and I'm so glad I did. I can promise you, if these guys came out around 2008, 2009, when the scene was booming with post-hardcore bands, this band would be at the top of the food chain. I just go listen to this album, pretend like post-hardcore is still the most popular genre, pretend Alexisonfire, Under Oath, and all those bands are still the main thing in the scene, and just pretend that Set to Reflect is up there. I will validate in the fact to say their aggressive style and, their instrumental set being, kind of softer in some parts and then just busting out in your ear and just going super loud, and you're like, holy shit, that caught me off guard. It's the way this album is. There's a lot of heavy stuff, there's even a really soft song, and I can't remember who it was, I think it was the former vocalist of Judas Priest, not Rob Halford, the other guy they had for a while. He actually messaged me on my page and said that his son was featured in one of the songs on this album, and I was like, holy shit, okay, awesome, I didn't know. But yeah, so just go listen to this album, support the guys, and buy this album. Okay, I got cut off, but like I was trying to say, just buy this album and support Set to Reflect. Just go check them out. I promise you won't be disappointed. Set to Reflect, Artificial Sun. Do it. Alright, we're at the halfway point, number 10. Ice Nine Kills with The Predator Becomes the Prey. Okay, this album means a lot to me in the fact that it was one of the first reviews I did in 2014, and I was really positive starting off the new year, and I thought, this it's a great way to start it, because I knew some of Ice Nine Kills from their EP and their Someone Like You cover by Adele, and I was like, man, these guys are really good, so I can't wait to hear it, because they got signed to Outer Loop Records. It was actually Outer Loop Records' first band. They got like 3 or 4 now, I think. And when this album dropped, I should say the first single dropped, my mind was blown. I fell in love with metalcore again. It was like starting a new love, once again. It's like the lamest thing I could have said, but it's true. Because this album just has such an aggressive rock metalcore feel to it. Like, half the album is like just heavy metalcore. You're like, oh shit, that shit is awesome. And then, you listen to the other half, there's like a bunch of like more catchier, almost rock stuff. You're like, well, it caught me by surprise. I dig it. I like it. And my favorite part was actually Summer at Warped Tour. I think I was New York or Buffalo. I don't remember. Wonton, New York, something like that. And I actually, first band I saw that day was Ice Nine Kills. And I got into the venue. I watched them. Their set was insane. Great band live. And then later on that afternoon, I actually went to their booth, and Spencer, their singer, was there. And he was like, you look familiar. Do I know you? And I was like, oh, he was like, what's your name? I was like, oh, I'm Chris. He's like, oh, you did that review on us. And I never really had a band say that to me before, so I kind of fangirled. Very proud of it. So yeah, number 10, Ice Nine Kills, The Predator Becomes the Prey. Number 9. Okay, we're kind of switching gears a little bit here with my number 9 pick. I went with Lights and Little Machines. Now, I got a soft spot for my Canadian girl, Lights. Bo Boken, love you to death. Hate that you stole my future wife. It's okay. A little side story to this, actually. I was at a Toronto Maple Leafs game a couple weeks ago on a family vacation, and I think they were playing the Red Wings in Toronto, and all of a sudden, and singing the national anthem is Lights. I screamed like a little girl, and everyone looked at me. True story. Not ashamed. If you're at that game and you heard someone screaming like a little girl, it was me. So yeah, Little Machines is her newest album. I know that with the listening, I fell in love with Lights automatically. At first I said, I'm not going to like this girl. She's all pop. But I fell in love, and it's so catchy. And then I heard the acoustic EP she put out. I was like, oh my god, it's so good. And then I kind of got turned off by Siberia, but the more I listened to it, I fell in love with it. So I went in the most positive attitude listening to Little Machines, and I wasn't let down. It's just the catchiest kind of pop music you could get. Her electronica feel with her amazing voice it makes me fall in love. Bo Boken, I hate you so much, man. You're just the luckiest guy ever. Okay. Alright. Number 8. Oh, gee, I got my fucking hair in my face. Okay, ignore that. Anyways, number 8. I chose Climates and their album Body Clocks. Now, if you've never heard of Climates, kind of like Set to Reflect, I found them almost right away when I heard that Artery Recordings had signed them. They posted their video for whatever new song was, which was Heaven. and what was the name of the song? But it was a heavenly song because the moment I heard it, I fell in love with this band, and I messaged their bassist Chris, and I was like, I need to hear more of you guys, like right now. So I waited patiently about, I think it was 7 months for this album to come out. I actually got a physical copy in the mail not too long ago. It's currently in the mix. This is all being organized. Just ignore that. For you album collection video lovers, just wait for it. That's another day. Okay, but anyways, this album has made me love the more melodic hardcore feel. I know the UK has a lot of great bands, like Fed to the Ocean and Shields, and Climates, just to name a few, who are like up and coming, and I can't explain to you how I fell in love with this album. They kind of lost their vocalist in the last few months because differences, whatever. But this album stands out as one of my favorites for the fact that it has this catchy, melodic hardcore feel with some great aggressive vocals and some minor cleans added in every now and again to kind of catch you off guard and say, hey, I like that. I appreciate it. It's good. So yeah, definitely like one of the best albums, one of the best bands in the UK right now. Go check out Climates. You will not be disappointed. Number 7, one that probably a lot of people could have guessed was going to be on my list, was Issues with their self-titled album, Issues. I think Issues are a band that came along at the right time for the fact that Tyler Carter and Michael Bowen were both in a band where metalcore became generic, and although Woe Was Me, when they both had them, was great, it faded down to nothingness. So the two of them went in with this band saying, what are we going to do? We're going to do metalcore, we're going to do pop, we're going to do rock. They basically took it and folded it all together into one weird-ass genre that's like metal, core, pop, electronic, rock, pop, everything. So it's just, you put all these genres together, it either works really well or you crash and burn. And it worked really well for Tyler Carter and Michael and everyone else in the band. Because this album really stood out as, a lot of heavy stuff, a lot of catchy poppy stuff, a lot of more like R&B stuff. Like, whoa, didn't see that coming. Like a lot of stuff on this list. But yeah, so Issues, no doubt about it. We're getting closer. Now, one EP made this list. I thought I was going to make a different EP video, but I said screw it. That would take too long, so I just put this. Number 5 is Landon Tewers, or Towers, you want to say his name. Landon Tewers with Dead Kid, which is his solo EP. Now, if you don't know, Landon is actually the vocalist of The Plot and You, so I'm sure you've heard how aggressive and angry he is. No, on this EP, it's a complete 180. There's this dark, sadistic side of him that's more alternative. I can't even give it a genre. It's just so interesting and so bold. And I don't usually order a lot of stuff from artists, kind of like solo stuff, but the minute I heard the first song by him, and I think it might have been a Wet Skin, maybe. I think it was the first song that was going to be released off of this. I got really hooked off of this alternative side of Landon, and the fact that everything on this EP, which is 7 songs, I do believe, it's just, it'll get stuck in your brain for the fact if you don't really like this alternative pop side, or whatever you want to call it, rock side of Landon, you'll still get it stuck in your head for the fact that that's the effect that this has. This dark, eerie side of him just coming out, which is saying something because The Plot and You has a lot of dark and twisted stuff already. So this is like a whole another level of twisted and messed up. But yeah, definitely, there's a reason why it's so high up on my list, and there you go. Number 4. Another one you guys may not be familiar with, actually, is Siler, to whom it may concern. Now, I bought this album on a whim. Razor and Tie is a record label I usually follow because they have a lot of bands like For Today, Attila, and a lot of other stuff. And they signed this band, Siler, who I never really heard of, but I think they put up the song Mirrors, and I heard it, I was like, alright, it's pretty good. Maybe I'll check out that album. So I saw it in HMV one day. It was like $9.99. So I was like, it's like WWE Network. I was like, okay, I gotta get it. Okay. No one gets that in wrestling fans? No, okay. Anyway, so I picked it up and I listened to it. And I was taken off guard by how catchy it was. It's like last year. I said that My Ticket Home and their newest album, Strangers Only, it caught me off guard because I didn't think it would be that good. But it was that good because it's like a mix of Linkin Park and Bring Me the Horizon and like of Mice and Men, all these bands that get jumbled together into this like electronic rock metalcore group that just kind of, it blends so well together with like the really catchy clean choruses and those like really heavy intros, or like the super heavy electronica intros, which is like, it's hard to explain. If you haven't listened to this album, Go listen to it. I'll try to link everything I can down below if there's full streams online. But you're probably just better off doing what I did and bought all the albums. Okay, number 3. Beartooth with Disgusting. Another one that's not a shocker for the fact that Beartooth came out swinging. They just right off the bat became everyone's favorite Caleb Shlomo project. Or Shlomo? But yeah, so Beartooth was basically this aggressive post-hardcore, basically kick-your-ass rock group that came out swinging with their EP, or their Sick EP, and then came out with make sure I got it right. Yes, Disgusting, because there's actually a song on the album called Sick and Disgusting, which I found was funny. EP and full length, whatever. But this album, like, there's not a bad song on it. You can listen to this all day and just, like, dance to it, friggin' be pissed off to it, jam to it. Doesn't matter. It's all, you can do it all to it. And that's why it's so high up on the list. Number 2. Despite an earlier altercation in the year with their lead singer, it did not affect the spot on my list because Misfortune and A Spark to Believe came in at number 2. The second I heard this album, I jammed that shit for days straight. There's not a lot of albums I will do that for. I did it for this. I love this album. It's really good. The fact that Sumerian Records puts out a lot of these djent metal bands, or whatever you want to call it, they got metalcore, Asking Alexandria, they got Born of Osiris, they got The Faceless, they got all these other bands. And I saw 2 bands come out in, I think it was last year, that were signed, or at least put something out. And that was Misfortune and another band called Fever Dreamer. Now, they didn't put out an album. I think they're working on it. But I fell in love with both these bands, and Misfortune put out a full length, and I fell in love with it. I bought it right away. I got my friends hooked on it, and I was like, well, whatever, it's a great album. And yeah, like I said, despite some false altercations for the lead singer, whatever, it doesn't matter. This album kicks ass. It's awesome. Number 1. This has been a long video. As you can tell, I didn't do a lot of cuts in it. There's a reason why. It's long as shit. Alright, so number 1. Drum roll. There's pure silence here. No drum roll. Okay. Number 1. The Amity Affliction with Let the Ocean Take Me. Now, okay. I will say this. I've always liked the Amity Affliction. I did. You know, I heard Chasing Ghosts last year or the year before, and I really liked it, and then I listened to Youngbloods. I was like, it's a good album too, and their older stuff is different, but it's good. I listened to this album in full, and I thought to myself, a lot of bands figure out what their genre is going to be, what their comfort zone is. And the Amity Affliction has done this spot on. They have written the perfect metalcore album. The use of breakdowns, the use of screaming and clean vocals, great lyrics, and just overall as a band making one of the most solid albums I heard in the past 2 or 3 years. Just through the roof. Amazing. I love it. This album has everything you'd be looking for. Surprisingly for a metalcore album, there's not any of those like soft acoustic tracks, which they never really do anyways. But there's a lot of softer parts in their songs that kind of grab you like that, emotionally, just drag you in. So it's like, it's like 3D right now. Just grab you. Yeah. All right. My thing just stopped filming on me again, which was like perfect timing because I just finished my list. So that is the top 20 albums of 2014. That's my list. What's your list? You can give me 5. You can give me 10. You can give me 15. You can give me 20. Don't give me more than 20, please. That's way too many. That's like me. That's why I had 15. I brought it down to 20. So yeah, guys, I know it's been like a slower start for me in the past 6 months, but that is my list, and as I promised, I get it out to you. Do you agree with what I said? Have you listened to everything on this list? If not, you should go listen to it, because I'm going to link it down below, as much as I can. At least one song from every band I will link down below, my favorite song from every album, which is actually a better idea. I'm going to do that instead of the full album. I'm going to link my favorite song from every album. So you can go listen to that down below, which is down there. So if you click down there, you'll see songs. You'll click on them, and you'll listen to them. Give in to the songs. Yeah, okay. So I'm really hyper off of coffee. So that's everything I got to say about this, guys. I got some reviews coming up, which the next review is, I can promise you, hopefully in the next few days, is going to be Fall Out Boy's American Beauty, American Psycho. Really excited to see what people think about it. I've listened to it once, and I'll wait for you to hear my thoughts in the actual video. So that's everything. Until next time, guys, remember, it's music for today, music for tomorrow, music for life. Bye.